Good morning and welcome to this episode of Creature Teachers. With me is Rick and I am Talia, and today we are discussing and looking at the top 10 animals that are the fan favorites. We're doing 5 to 1 today. So what do we have?
Well, we brought a bunch today, again, that are our fan favorites. We are going to take Doug out first, and I think you remember who Doug is, but Doug is sitting here making an awful lot of noise, so I think we better bring him out, and hopefully he'll calm down a little bit. He definitely wants to come out and say hi to everybody, and so let's get him back up here and see if you can tell me a little bit about Doug. Boom. Okay.
So is he a six-banded?
He's a six-banded, and depending on what you're looking at as far as the bands go,
Right.
I always count 7 on him, so I think they probably just didn't know when they named him. Most of the armadillos are named for the bands that are on them, but there's a
Like a
surprisingly,
three-banded, a
yeah, there's a
nine-banded.
3-banded, there's a 9-banded. The 9-banded is the one that we see primarily here in the southern United States. We see them from Texas to Florida. They do like the warm weather. This one, however, is from South America, and it's a 6-banded, sometimes called a yellow armadillo. And surprisingly, there are 20 different species of armadillos, and they range in size, they range in shape. There is one called a little fairy armadillo, and it's quite small. It's endangered, mostly because it's only found in certain areas, but it's just a really unique little armadillo. The 3-banded armadillo, that's my finger, Doug, that is not, there you go, okay. These are omnivores too, so they're going to eat just about anything that they can. There's a lot of insects in their diet, but as you can see with him, he's not a particularly fast animal, and because he's not so quick, he's got to have something else to protect himself, and that is where his armor plating comes in. He uses that, and it's very hard. If you want to feel that, you'll see.
It's like maze.
Yeah, it's like I always think that he feels like a basketball. It's a very hard outer shell. It is not made out of bone. It is truly made out of skin, just layer upon layer of skin, and it does protect him. Now, armadillos, the banding that you see, you will notice that he can move that back and forth. So the dark bands that we're seeing is a very supple skin, and that allows him to move the hard bands back and forth and articulate those bands, which means that he can kind of roll up. He's not particularly good at it. There's a couple of reasons for that. The biggest reason is that he's like me. He's a little bit overweight. So, oh, come on, down you go, Doug. All right, so when we see his belly here, we'll see that soft belly is what he's trying to protect.
He's like, I'm not having it.
Yeah, so he does have a very, very soft underbelly, and that is what his armor plating is there to protect. We named him Doug for obvious reasons. If we look at his front feet here, we can see just how powerful those feet are. Those feet are for digging, and hence the name Doug. Most armadillos are nocturnal. Doug is the only one which is diurnal, so he would come out during the daytime. He's got a couple of things that make him stand out in the armadillo world, and that being diurnal is one of them. And the other thing is that most armadillos are going to dig a new burrow every day.
Oh, really?
Doug tends to be much more of a homebody, and he could stay several months in a burrow before he moves on to another location. Because they are omnivores, they eat a lot of different things. They will eat a lot of insects in their diet, a lot of plant material in their diet. They will eat baby mice and stuff like that if they can find them. But again, they're not a hunter. They're not fast enough to be able to catch things, and they're really not. Yeah, and he's very, very strong. Yeah. And if we look at his ears here, we can see he's got these pretty cool little Shrek ears. One thing about armadillos is they're not particularly bright animals. They rely on their physical features to defend themselves. They're not super smart, but he's an intriguing creature anyway. And they are mammals. And when we're doing our programming, we like to ask the kids if they know what they are, and we get everything from dinosaur to reptile. But for the most part, when we look at him, we can see that he does have some hair on him, and that kind of gives it away.
He's warm.
He's warm-blooded. He does have hair on him, and they do give birth to live young. So that's how we can tell that he is a mammal. It's not to say that all mammals give birth to live young. There are several that
Pop out
don't.
like little golf balls.
Yeah, I've never seen a baby armadillo, but I imagine they're cute. And you know, he's looking around now for a little piece of banana. He's you know, he had that piece of banana before, and I think we'll give him one more piece to maybe try and calm him down a little bit. He's an intriguing little creature. There you go, Doug.
nom,
Got
nom,
it?
nom, nom.
Yes, indeed. Everything likes bananas. All right. Now, he is South American. All of the armadillos are from the Americas, and there aren't any that live in cold climates. These guys love the hot weather. The hotter, the better. They tend to be a real problem when it comes to farmers, because not only will they eat a lot of farm crops, but with those big, huge paddles in front there, they love to dig. And so they can not only eat the crop, but they will dig up crops too. So they can be quite destructive. And because of that, there are many places where people will eat armadillos. Now, there is a problem with that. They're supposed to be very tasty. I've never had armadillo. But do you know what the problem there is with them?
Yeah, they can carry leprosy.
Yeah, they carry a disease called leprosy. And the reason that we know that Doug doesn't have it is because, like all of our other animals, he was born in captivity. So, he does go through his physicals every year.
Physicals.
But in the wild, they can indeed carry leprosy, and that can be a problem. So, if you eat armadillo, there's a chance that you might be able to get leprosy. So, I wouldn't recommend it. He is an average size. There's one called a hairy armadillo, which is quite large, and there is a giant armadillo, which is huge. I saw one somewhere in a newspaper.
Like an armored tank.
Yep, and that was 50 some odd pounds, so they can get really, really large. And talk about digging a big hole in your yard. I can imagine that would be a problem. So, but feel his belly. You'll see just how soft his belly is, and that's what he's trying to protect with that big hard shell of his.
Oh, it's a soft belly.
All right.
He's like, no.
Well, Doug, now we're going to try and put him back. Okay. He was sitting here scratching and scraping and making all kinds of noise, so we're hoping that when we put him back in here, he'll behave himself. But nothing seems to want to behave itself today, so I wouldn't count on it. Our next one is a new one for us. And she's gotten to be a favorite already. We had another one of these that we had for 8 years, and it finally passed away. And we were just so devastated by that we had to go out and get a replacement. And it is our new baby of the year. There we go. Now, let's see. Can you tell me what that is, Talia?
This is a baby groundhog.
Groundhog, there's a couple of names for him, actually, so you wouldn't be wrong if you called him a couple of other things. Would you like some of that? There you go. Okay, hang on to it.
Woodchuck.
Yeah, they call them
whistle
woodchucks
pig.
or whistle pigs. And interestingly enough, this one is a very vocal animal. I never realized why they called them whistle pigs, but there's a very good reason for it.
They do little
They
whistles.
absolutely whistle,
all the
and they're
time.
good at it. And she has whistled to me. What's happened with her now is she's gotten to the point where she will whistle to let me know that she's hungry or that she wants to come out and run around. She's just a really, really cool animal. Whenever we get new babies like this, we like to try and socialize them for a while so that they're going to be used to people. And they're not going to be afraid of everybody, which is why you're able to pet her right now. And so we let her out. And what she'll do is she'll whistle for us. We take her out and we put her on the porch and let her run around. And she loves to play. So if you happen to be sitting there and you put your fingers on the floor and drum them a little bit, she comes running over and she starts to play with your hand. So she is a great little creature. They are rodents as well, and they're a fairly large rodent as rodents go. They're widespread throughout the United States. We'll get them, you know, from, this one happens to be from Illinois, because there's a guy that raises them out there, and she'll get to be probably about 10 pounds or so. So they get fairly large. And there we go. Now she just wants to get her ear scratched. Yeah. Somebody showed me a photograph that they took in their backyard of a baby woodchuck about this age, not that long ago, and it was quite brown.
Huh.
So we noticed that the color it changes quite a bit from location to location throughout the United States as well. In the northern states, they do hibernate. And so I think you were telling me earlier that they have a name for their burrow too, which would be?
Okay, their burrow is called a sett, and it's spelled C-E-T-T-E.
Which I did not know. I just call it a hole in the ground.
So this sett can be up to 80 feet long. And the birthing chamber is really only 3 lengths more than the mother's body length. This is to keep in all the warm, fluffy air so that the babies can stay warm.
And he or she has actually probably doubled in size since we've gotten her. We've only had her for a couple of weeks now. And she is very, very curious about things. She walks around and checks things out. She uses her teeth quite a bit to find things, and one of the things that we find with most rodents, and these guys in particular, is that they're going to have to chew on something.
Yeah.
They need something to chew on, otherwise their teeth will continue to grow,
growing.
and their teeth can grow right through the roof of the mouth.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is give her some things. So we give her bones and stuff like that. Those tend to be hard enough for her to chew on. Now, she's got white teeth. She's got these you can see those big, huge teeth that she uses. She uses these as scissors. They're used to cut plant material, and that's what she feeds on, is all kinds of different plant material. Some rodents will eat other things. We find that things like the flying squirrels that we had on our last episode, flying squirrels will eat a lot of insects and stuff, but these guys are just going to wind up eating vegetable material. So they can be quite a nuisance. And one of the things that people may not realize with them is that they can indeed climb as well. Now we know they dig. They call them woodchucks or groundhogs for a reason. So we know they're going to create that sett that you were talking about, and they're going to wind up digging down into the ground. But she is a really good climber, and she's climbed out of her cage on several occasions.
No.
She is just really good at that. And I've seen these guys 10 feet up in apple trees. So they can climb trees, they can climb fences. If you think you're going to wind up keeping them out of your garden by putting up a fence, probably not. They like to get under houses, and they like to get under sheds and stuff. I have a lot of people that say to me, oh, I wish you had known, I could have given you the ones in my backyard. Well, that's not how we do things, but certainly a lot of people find that these are very local animals, and they will they'll come in and get under your shed, and they become really kind of the mainstay of an area. So if you have them in your backyard, there's a good chance, there's a reason that they're there. They might be eating your garden. They might be, you might have heard her, she just made a little noise. And when she whistles, it's really cool to hear her whistle, because she does indeed make a noise. And so we see that with her quite a bit. So if you want to hang on to her for just 1 second, I'm going to move Doug here.
Okay. It's all right.
And you'll see
Just
how
a
very
little
active she is
wiggle
as well.
monster.
She is. She loves
Wiggle,
to get around there. You got to come over here. Yeah, you got to wrestle now. And she does love to wrestle. So she'll come up to you, and she'll put her head like this, and then she'll flip over, and you can scratch her little belly. And what I find with them is, she's just a little rodent, but she has so much personality. Again, I never thought that I would like rodents as much, but some of my favorite animals are these rodents. Okay.
She's like,
Now
love me.
they do indeed hibernate. They're not like the flying squirrel that we were talking about before that does not hibernate. These guys will spend some time underground. And what's interesting to me is that hibernation is really kind of a fascinating thing because they slow down so much.
They're like this
Everything,
close
yeah.
to death.
I mean, they're just barely alive when you think
Right.
about it. Their body temperature lowers. Everything
All of the
seems
organ
to
functions
Yep,
just kinda
everything seems to slow down.
down.
They might go up to 6 months with no food or no water, and that's incredible when you think about it. One breath every few minutes.
Yeah.
There's so many things about them that slow down. But this, is necessary for them to get through the winter because there's no food source for them in the wintertime. So because of that, they're going to have to everything is going to have to slow down for them. We do not hibernate them. We feed them through the winter. We noticed this with Vinny, that he slows down right around September, October, when he thinks he's going to be going into his hibernation, but we never let him completely go into hibernation. And animals that slow down but don't exactly hibernate in the wintertime, there's something they call brumation, which means that they're not physically going into that. They're just slowing down as much as they possibly can. Lots of times, things like corn snakes will do this, and other animals tend to brumate rather than go into a complete hibernation. But these guys indeed will, but we just don't let them. We had one that we hibernated one time, and she went through hibernation fine. But when she came out of hibernation, she lived about a week and then she died, and we don't know why, but we do know that hibernation is really tough on an animal. When you think about what they have to go through, it's a tough process for them to go through. So, and this is what she does when she plays. She just comes right over, and she comes when you call her. We've had her for a couple of weeks now, and if you take and put your hand on the floor and drum your fingers, she comes running right over. So she's a really intriguing little creature. And who knew? I mean, if you talk to 90% of the population, they'll tell you that they're an annoying little rodent that eats their garden. But for me, it's a different story. She is fascinating.
Super sweet.
Yeah. All right. What do you think? You gonna eat the rest of your banana? All right.
Maybe.
Let's let her eat the rest of that. Like I said, everything loves bananas. I love it when they stop like this too. It's almost like they've seen something or they're contemplating the universe. I can't figure out what it's all about, but we like the ones. We're not as fond as the local ones that have the brown fur. We do like the ones that have the salt and pepper, and mostly because we blend. Yeah.
Pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. She can camouflage in my beard. All right. What do you think? Would you like to go back in? All right. Let's see if we can find. Oh, her home is over here, so I'll be right back, Talia.
Okay.
We always seem to have birds in our programs, and so the next one we have is a bird that we've had for, well, ever since we started Creature Teachers, and it's the first bird we had, and I say he, but it's actually she, is a favorite of ours as well. And I'll tell you a little story behind her. You want to come out? Come on. Atta girl. Okay. Here we go.
Hi,
Now she's quite shy. I'm going to turn her so that you can see her a little bit here. She's going to stretch her wings out a little. There you go. All right. How about the other wing? You going to stretch out your other wing? Would you like some banana too? Would that be good? Okay. And we started off doing a lot of programs about rainforest, and this is really the iconic rainforest animal that we see in the South and Central American rainforests. This is a blue and gold macaw. Macaws are those parrots that are rather large. These are the largest of the parrots. And like we were saying in our last program, that there's a lot of different kinds of parrots. There are parakeets, there are the little parrotlets, there are, these, and you get larger and larger, and the largest of the parrots are the macaws. There's one called hyacinth macaw, and those get really, really quite large. She's not a huge bird, but she is pretty substantial as they go. A couple of things that you might notice with her, and I'm going to try and turn her so that you can see her other leg here. If you were to look down at her leg, you would see a bracelet.
Yep.
you're going to see that band. And that band has information on it. And basically what it says is where and when she was born. And this means that she was indeed born here in the United States,
Captive.
which is huge
Not a
for us
smuggle.
because we know that she hasn't been stuffed into
Right.
a tube and smuggled into the United States. That is really big for us. It means that we can kind of track her as she goes along. Like I said, she was one of the first animals we got, so she's about 14 years old now. And just recently we found out that Carlos, which is her original name, turned into Carla because she started laying eggs. And she is just, of course, none of the eggs are fertile, but it meant that she was mature enough to start laying eggs now. And I just recently had to pull her off of 8 eggs. So she is, quite the egg layer. I joke with my wife that we have chickens at home and I have more macaws laying eggs now than my chickens. We have a scarlet that's also laying eggs. But we don't have any males, so we're not really here to raise the birds. I don't know that I would want to get into that. But she is an absolutely gorgeous bird. We see a lot of color on macaws. Most macaws have quite a bit of color on her. We're seeing green on the top of her head.
Yeah, I like the
green. We see this they call her blue and gold or blue and yellow macaw because of the blue and yellow on them. And there are scarlet macaws. Scarlet macaws are the red macaws. And she's a bit heavy too because she is such a big bird. I'm going to put her down here and see if she's going to stay down there. We can take a look at her a little bit here. They can live quite some time. When we're talking about a bird like this living 50 to 80 years and at least 25 years in the wild. They tend to live less in the wild. And also you've got to remember there's a lot that they have to deal with in the wild too. They have to deal with prey animal or predatory animals eating them or using them as prey. They are extremely noisy birds. Lots of times people see a bird like this and they say,
like,
oh, I'd love to have one of those as a pet.
Yeah, but
and
they scream.
And they are super loud. They require a lot of attention. This beak right here can break a Brazil nut. So if you're talking about having one that might not like you all the time, that right there could break your finger. So you do have to be careful of that. She's very nice right now, but when I tried to go and get her off of her eggs, you have to be concerned with that because she doesn't want me to take her away from the eggs.
Yeah.
So she can be somewhat aggressive at some point. And again, with that beak, you want to be careful of that. Do you want to come back over here? I'm going to get up here. There we go. Now you'll notice something. When she went to reach for my hand, she reached for it with her beak. She uses her beak very much like another hand. And so it's another thing that you have to be aware of when you're handling parrots. They're going to want to reach out with their beak first. And a lot of people think they're reaching out to bite you, so they're going to retreat from that. But it's just that's the way they are. That's the way they deal with it. All right. Let's see. Are you going to let me scratch your head here?
So doesn't she have speech capabilities?
She
as well?
does, and she does talk. She's not a very good talker. At Creature Teachers, we never really cared. We're more concerned about the
welfare. Of the animal,
just the welfare and also the natural history of the animal. We don't, they're not an animal that would talk much in the wild. Although they will mimic other animals in the wild, but we never really cared whether they talked or not. So she's not a very good talker. And neither is Zima, the white bird that we had in the last show. They can talk, and they do talk, but they're not very good talkers. Some people, that is a big deal for them, so they'll sit there and repeat things over and over again, and that's how they get to wind up talking. So, she's an impressive bird, though.
She's very pretty.
Yeah. And recently, we were concerned about her because when she was laying all these eggs, she had stopped eating. And that's a big deal because, well, first of all, when they're starting to lay the eggs, we are concerned about the calcium in their diet because they're obviously getting rid of the calcium in their system through the eggshell. So we try and increase the calcium in their diet, but she wasn't even eating. And the reason she wasn't eating is because she didn't want to leave her nest site to come and get her food. So we as much as we hated to do it, we took all of her eggs away from her, and now she's out there, you know, eating, and she's got no problem. And she certainly hasn't lost any weight. She is a very big, beautiful bird.
She's like, yes, I am.
Yep.
Get all fluffy.
And so that's one thing that they do. One thing you'll notice with her is that most of the birds that we have, we trim their wings. We'll clip their wings because we don't want them flying around. I don't use her enough outside, and she has full wing feathers on her, and it's quite impressive when you see how big this is. The other thing you notice with the macaws, as opposed to some of the other parrots, is that she's got a big long tail on her. This aids in balance when she's flying. So if we were to see her tail feathers spread out, it would be a big, huge kind of a diamond shape. And this allows for much better balance and maneuverability when she's flying. So, do you want to come down? Step up. Step up, that a girl. Okay. All right. Here you go. You can walk around a little bit. You gonna say hi to the kids? No? We noticed this with the feet of the cockatoo last time. You've got the two toes that go backwards and the two toes that go forward. And again, this allows her to really grab onto things, so she can perch quite well in the trees, but she can also grab pieces of fruit and stuff and hold on to them. So she could eat something. If she found, say, something the size of an apple, she could very easily eat that just by holding on to it. So, and a lot of times the fruit she eats are these big pieces of fruit. So, all right. Would you like to go back down in your cage? Yes, no, maybe? You were the one making all the noise. Yeah. Come on, step up. Atta girl. All right. You've probably been sitting here going, wow, what is that awful smell? Honestly, it's not me, Talia.
I know it's not you.
It smells, it's a smelly animal. It's not an animal that we would think of as being a smelly animal. Most of the time we think of an animal like a skunk as being a very stinky animal. And a skunk is going to use its scent for defense. Believe it or not, this animal uses it for defense too. It's not its first line of defense, but it does help it quite a bit. So let me get that one out, and we will see.
This is a friendly creature, I remember.
It is a friendly. Oh my goodness.
I don't care if he stinks.
It's a heavy, friendly creature.
I'm going to be all over him.
All right, come on out, buddy.
Come out!
There we go.
Hi.
All right, so take that down. Hi. He's mad at me because I gave all of the banana to the other folks, so he's going to sit here and chew you up.
That's fine.
Now, what you'll also notice, Talia, this is a big deal this time of year, too, is that this is an animal that has, well, first of all, what is it?
It's a porcupine.
It's a porcupine. It's a North American porcupine. And when a lot of times we see them, especially in the wintertime, we notice that there is a lot of hair on this animal. And lots of times people look at it and go, well, it can't be a porcupine, because porcupines have a lot of quills on them. And we do see quills, but especially in the wintertime, what we're seeing is a lot of hair. This is an animal that's going to need to defend itself. So it has the quills, but it also needs to stay warm too. So it has a very dense coat, and right now you will see this coming out in these big masses and losing a lot of hair. Now, what you just saw him do is the reason that people think that porcupines shoot their quills. They do not shoot their quills. You will notice, though, that there's a lot of quills on the table here, because when he shook his body, these quills are coming out. Right now, he's losing his hair. He needs to defend himself, so he needs those quills. But he's gone through the winter with a big, heavy coat. And now he's coming out of the winter. He needs to get rid of that big, heavy coat, and so he's shedding it out. And with that, he's shedding his quills too, because his quills are nothing more than hair. Yeah. Now you notice how playful he is. He is quite playful. He does have pretty sharp teeth, though. So Talia's probably sitting here. As long as you know that.
I know the limit.
But tell me what color his teeth are, Talia.
These are going to be orange if I can see them.
Yeah, they're orange. And we see this with a lot of different rodents. When we look at that woodchuck, the woodchuck's teeth were white. But when we look at something like this animal has orange teeth. Beavers have orange teeth. Nutria have orange teeth. Many rats have these orange teeth. And so in the rodents as rodents go, there's quite a few that have orange teeth. And so the orange teeth, we would think, are there because they're stained, because they're getting, they're eating things that are staining their teeth. But that's not true. The orange that's on their teeth is an enamel, and the enamel is orange, and it's a very, very thick enamel. It's a very hard enamel, and it also means that we need to give him things to chew to keep his teeth kind of chewed down.
I love you too.
Yeah.
You can't bite
Now,
that.
he has a tendency to get kind of rambunctious, especially this time of year. And what he's doing is he's kind of playing, he's defending his area. And one of the things that we'll notice that he does, he grabs on a lot.
Yeah.
We consider him, we consider him the original tree hugger. But believe it or not, this is a way that he is going to defend himself.
At all.
When he does this, he is grabbing onto something, and if he grabs onto, let's see if he can get him to grab onto to me here. Yeah, because he's getting a little rambunctious. Come on over here.
He's like, no, I'm playing with her.
If we can get him to grab on, we'll notice that when he's grabbing, the part that he is he's now protecting is the part that he doesn't where he doesn't have quills. He does not have quills on his belly. He does not have quills on his face, and because of that, he needs to protect that part. So when he comes up and he grabs a tree, he's protecting. See how he's running around in a circle like this?
He's so excited.
When he runs around in a circle like this, he's also protecting himself. That is the business end right there. That's where you're seeing all those quills. What he's trying to do is he's getting to the point where he's very good at running around in circles. And if something is attacking him, it's going to come in. Let me hear you. It's going to come in, and it's going to, yep, come on.
He's like, no, I love her.
It's going to wind up facing that end. And so he's trying to get that end facing whatever is trying to bite him. So let's get his cage here and see if we can get him back in it.
Aww.
And we have, ouch, the last one. Come on over here. Come on there.
Porcupine.
In you go. No. No, we need you to go in front first here.
But I love her.
Come on. Come on. In you go. There we go. One bad thing about porcupines is they don't push very well. Come on. In we go. Come on. Yep, nope, get your head in. There we go. Okay. Now, we'll notice here that there are some quills there. The quills are barbed, so what they're going to do is they're going to stick in you and they're going to stay in you. And you need to remove those, otherwise they can continue to go forward, which could be dangerous. So if you have a dog or a cat that gets attacked by, I shouldn't say attack because these guys don't attack, but they could get these in their noses, and that would be a big, big problem. So you'd want to make sure that you get those out. This is a very interesting creature because it is only about half grown. It's a very large creature. It's a creature that's been in the news quite a bit lately because it has gotten loose in South Florida and is quite a problem. Now, Talia was smart. She went and she washed her hands. The reason for that is she doesn't want to smell like a rodent.
Which is food.
That happens to be what these guys eat. Good point. I am going to just maintain the head here so I don't have to worry about it too much. But what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can get some help from the audience. And I think what we'll do is go 1, 2, 3, 4. The rest of you will get a chance to come up afterwards, but if you guys, you 4, want to come up, what we're going to do is have you come right back here.
He's so pretty.
Right in here. And you can come up, and I want to ask you a couple things. You can go ahead and pet him. This is a female. You can hear her hissing right now. She's only doing that because she's always done this to me. This is just a thing that they will wind up doing. They just want to hiss a little bit. If you can pick the tail up and just put it back onto the table here, we want to keep her up here on the table so we can see just how long she is. So my first question to you guys is, when you touch her, is she smooth or slimy?
Smooth.
Yeah, she's quite smooth. And what we find with snakes is that lots of times people look at them, and because they're shiny like this, they tend to think that snakes are slimy. And they are indeed not slimy at all. They're very smooth and dry. So the scales on them are really kind of smooth and dry. But sometimes you'll even notice an iridescence on them, and that just happens to be the top of the skin has an iridescent color to it. She's got a wonderful pattern on her, and if you think about this, if you were to see her in the wild, she would probably wind up being curled up in the leaves and the sticks, and that is going to mean that she's going to blend in quite well. So she's going to be great at camouflage. The other thing we might notice, if we can see her head here, is we will see her sticking her tongue out. And she sticks her tongue out for a reason. And that reason, any of you guys know why she sticks her tongue out? Yeah, she's smelling with her tongue, actually. And that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because you don't go up to a flower and go, that smells good. But what they're doing is they've got a weird thing on the inside of the top of their mouth called a Jacobson's organ. So they stick their tongue out and they wiggle it around, and they're picking up particles of the air. It goes back into their head, and it allows them to it lets them know exactly what's going on around them, and that's really important for her. If we look at her body where you guys are, you can see just how big that is. She could eat rats right now. That's what she does eat. She eats rats. And rats can be pretty big. So she could easily, and also remember that she needs to swallow those in one piece. She's going to swallow them whole. And so because of that, she has to kind of expand that body a little bit. But she needs to swallow them whole with that head, which is quite small compared to the rest of her body. And so how she does that, she's got a way to expand her jaw. She's got an extra bone here that allows her to expand her jaw this way. And she also does not have the part in the middle of her chin is separated, so she can expand her jaw sideways quite a bit too. So she is very, very good at being able to open her mouth quite large. For her to eat something the size of a rat would be like you guys eating a watermelon all in one piece. And so I don't think that's going to happen. But with them, they have the ability to do that, and that's how they can eat. Do snakes have bones?
Yes.
Yes, they do. And you guys can probably feel right there, if you were to put your finger right there, you can feel her backbone. You can see it right here. And that backbone is made up of all these little bones, and that's what allows her to be able to move back and forth. It's very important that she has bones, because she's a constrictor. She needs to squeeze things for a living, which means she needs to be very strong. And the only way she could be that strong is to have those muscles holding on to some structure, and those bones give her the structure to be able to hold on and squeeze with. So that is how she is going to squeeze her food. And she's actually sticking her tongue out at you. She's trying to find out whether you're something good to eat, but I think you're a little too big for her, so you don't need to worry too much about that. Okay. I really like these snakes. The unfortunate part about them is that they were introduced into South Florida,
and they are crazy.
They are there for the long term now. Even with these cold spells that they had down there, they're
fine.
They're still in the Florida Everglades, and they're a big problem down there because they eat all of those things like raccoons and possums and stuff. Those populations of those animals are declining because of this introduced animal. They can even eat alligators and things, so they do have to watch out for them.
Little caimans and junk. Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're so difficult to see and to find.
Especially in the jungle.
Yeah, when you're talking about the Everglades, you can be right on top of them and not even realize it. So they can be a big, big problem.
How old is she?
I don't really know, and that is a good question too. We got her as a rescue. We've had her for 6 years. We probably figure that she was fairly young when we got her. So, and they can live up to 30 years. And this animal could get 26 feet.
Wow.
And if you figure right now, she doesn't look it because we've got her on a fairly, if we were to stretch her out, you'd be able to see it a lot better. But she's about 12 feet now, so she's, she's got a ways to go before she is full grown. The females get much larger than the males do, and they get much heavier bodied too. So, but they can get rather large. All right. Well, I think she's our last critter for the day, and I think what we'll do now is we'll see if anybody else would like to come up and see her. How about all of you? If you want to come up, you're more than welcome to. You can come up and you can pet her.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Creature Teachers. I'm Talia, and this is Rick, and we hope to see you soon.